Welcome back to the video blog. The Harinazumi is out in full force again. I'm in the mood for a little bit of Super 8. I love how it saturates the colors, and I just like how compact it is. Yeah, I'm a bit of a fetishist with my cameras. So I thought I'd speak a little bit about my writing process and how I go about writing and how I feel when I'm writing and the approach that I take to composing a blog, or if it's more extensive, portions of books and things like that. I remember reading this book not too long ago by Paulo Coelho, famous author of The Alchemist, but some people might scoff at his books and say that they're cheese, or that they're general success books, or that kind of thing, and that they really have no merit or no standing or no bearing in the hallowed halls of academe. But he wrote another book called The Zahir, and I love how he describes, because he's talking about himself, yeah, but he's kind of handing off his emotions to one of his protagonists. And he says, how he goes about writing, and he says he has this idea in his head, and it's all-consuming, but it's like exploding within him, and he wants to just get it out on paper or on the computer screen. But he absolutely is like inundated with it, to the extent that it makes him mad, or it makes him uneasy, or it makes him really jumpy. And he sits down at the table, and he finds that he can't really get it out in a way that makes any sense. And he's just like bristling with all of this restless energy. So eventually he gets it out there, of course, and the smallest things start to bother him, for example. Like if he has a hanging fingernail that just throws off his game, or like some tic-tac noise that's, on some kind of a cadence that throws him off, or some bad music, anything could possibly throw off the writing rhythm and the writing cadence, which I find really fascinating. But the thing that really stood out for me was the initial approach. I guess I'm similar. I mean, I have ideas all the time, stuff that I can write about. For example, today I just wrote about my reflections, because I made a point I'm going to be doing more blogging. I've been doing video blogging and audio stuff a lot, but I wanted to get more back to the writing, because it's very difficult to write something well and to have like a cogent thought, and it's important to practice that. And as most of you will now know, I unfortunately haven't written a book since 2006, and it really feels lousy, actually. And I think these blog posts that I'll be doing over the next week and a half are going to be a prelude to something that's more long form. And I'm going to try to, in the very little time that I have anyway, I'm going to try to squeeze in maybe an hour or so a day of some solid writing, because I think that's important. But when I was writing this review today of the Baader-Meinhof complex, the Baader-Meinhof complex, which is a book by Stefan Aust, and it's a film by hold on a sec, why am I drawing a blank? Because I haven't slept for the entire day. Uli Elda. And I really wanted to get out this idea about why people were so enamored by Andreas Baader, and why Ulrike Meinhof and Gudrun Enslin, why they were so enamored with these misfits, who were beyond misfits. They were murderers, and they were thieves, and they were rogues and revolutionaries, and whatever you want to call them. The RAF, the Red Army faction, and the Baader-Meinhof gang. Why were people so enamored with them? 1 out of 4 Germans were enamored in the 1970s with the exploits, and the nefarious exploits, of the Baader-Meinhof gang. So I wanted to kind of structure my thoughts in terms of why I'm fascinated by that period in 20th century history, without really making it seem too syrupy, or without making it seem like I lost the plot. So as I sat down to get out that post, I was bristling with all this lousy energy, honestly, and it was driving me batty. It was absolutely driving me batty. And every time I kept getting up from the chair. I think also it's compounded by the fact that I haven't really rested, so I need to kind of rest. But anyway, I was getting up and sitting down, getting up, sitting down, getting up and sitting down. It took me quite a while to get it out. I eventually hammered 1,000 words worth of thought, which is probably too long for a blog post anyway, but still, that's how it all comes out. I almost wrote double the quota yesterday. But I definitely share those kind of thoughts when I sit down and write something. It never comes easily. And I don't do any kind of self-editing like a lot of writers will just write and be disgusted with themselves and edit a paragraph and then rewrite it. No, you just gotta kind of write it through, and then you can revisit it again, and then maybe write it through a second time, and then come back and then kind of do some tweaks. So I don't want to talk about that specific process, but definitely like the pre-process and the thinking about it. And I don't know what your routine is, whether you're exercising or you're showering or you're doing something else, or you're taking a walk around the block or you're sipping a coffee, whatever. But the interesting thing there is I totally remember every time I sit and I have this restless moment, I think back to the Zahir, and I think back to the Paulo Coelho book and the character that he drafted that had this problem with his writing, yeah? So I can't remember the name of the character, but I definitely remember the incident, and I remember the scenario. And it's like this bristling energy. It's like coming out of you. Sorry, there's a bee there. It's coming out of you, and you're like completely like overwhelmed with it. It's so overwhelming that you don't really know how to even put it out there. And it takes you a couple of false started attempts as you crack it out there, and eventually it comes out there in a really interesting sort of way. So I thought I would share that with you as I continue to sally forth and forge boldly ahead into these 2 weeks of July 2011, year of our Lord. Wishing you and yours, dragonflies, all kinds of insects, and you guys too, the very best of things. Double shot before you head into your weekend.